What is up? Today I'm going to talk about something that's very important to me and something that needs to change in America. So, SJWs, get ready to be pissed on. So, everyone knows right now things are expensive. The cost of living is raising, and the wage that you make per hour is not able to catch up. Now, I'm not suggesting to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour like a lot of people are trying to suggest, because that's unrealistic. And what a lot of people are thinking is, oh, we raise the minimum wage, everything's going to be a-okay. Well, no, it's not, because if you actually watch when minimum wage raises, things also raise with it. Gas prices raise, thus the food cost will raise, cost of living will raise, everything else will raise. Now, that's not to say they shouldn't raise minimum wage, they should, but let's not be unrealistic here, people. So, the main point I want to bring across is the help that the government's supposed to get for people that are unable to make ends meet, aka welfare, food stamps, stuff like that. Well, my wife and I both work, and it's not a significant amount of money, but I mean, we get by with what we have. Well, we was getting food stamps for a while. We also have a child, and anybody who has children know that children are expensive, especially that they never ever stop eating. You know, when they go through the growth spurt, they'll eat more, therefore food costs will go a little higher. Well, for a while we were getting about $117 in food stamps. It's not a significant amount, but it was able to, you know, help the blow on food. Well, we got a letter in the mail that says our food stamps are going to be lowered to $16 or $17 or whatever it was. Now, I don't know about you, but you really can't get much off of $17. Now, I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, maybe you're living above your means, and well, no, we're not. All of our bills do get paid. All of our stuff is paid. It may be a little late because of when we get paid, but it will get paid within the month. So, what's really ridiculous to me is you'll have little woman over here who has no job and 10 kids, and she'll get a buttload of money living off of welfare and food stamps, and she refuses to get a job. Well, why is that fair that she refuses to get a job, but then again, she doesn't have to get a job? She's living off food stamps. She's living off, you know, potential child support, unless she's still with the person, unless they're both not working, which is utterly ridiculous. Because once upon a time, back in 2007, 2008, excuse me, I was on food stamps. This was well before I met my wife. This was well before I was in any kind of relationship. I was on food stamps. I was practically homeless, and it was just me. They were giving me $200 a month. Now, I had no kids. I did have no job, but I was actively seeking work. I was either underemployed or I was unemployed at the time. But I was also getting $200 in food stamps. Now, how is that fair that a single male who's homeless, who doesn't even have a place to put his food, was getting $200 in food stamps, when a man and a wife who is both working and has a kid is only getting $17? And then a little woman over here has 10 kids and no job and not trying to seek job, living off the government. Something needs to change. They either need to have stricter rules where required to show proof that you're looking for work, because the way that food stamps works here in Missouri is that you have a job tracker. You know, you apply for your job, then you have a piece of paper that you have to fill out that shows where you went, the contact that you made, whether it was applied online, applied in person, and you got to give the list of the addresses of the job that you were applied to. Now, they don't do anything with that. They say, oh, this is for auditing purposes. But I would tell you, the entire time I was on food stamps back in that day, they never once audited me. They just take everything at, you know, a grain of salt. And then once a month, I was required to go down to the Missouri job place thingy. I can't remember, unemployment office. You know, I was required to go to the unemployment office, and I had to go on the computer. I had to go fill out some paperwork on the computer, and that took about roughly, you know, 30 minutes, give or take, depending on how busy it was. And then I was done. You know, put all my contacts and stuff in the computer, and then I was done. Also, once a month or once every 7 months, I can't remember. Things have changed a little bit. I was also required to go down to the food stamp office or send my paperwork in, depending on what they needed me to do. And then that was that. Now, there's a problem there. People can and people do lie. So, where are the SJWs protesting this? That is real social injustice. No, they're too busy, you know, picketing and picking on 12-year-old girls that happen to be white doing box braids. No, they're too busy picking on her. Where is the real SJWs petitioning real social injustice? Because there's real social injustice here in America going on, but they're too busy picking on the crap that doesn't even matter. This is why I'm getting really mad. So, they are too busy picking on people. They're too busy saying, you know, down with white cops, they're killing black people. No, they're killing criminals. I remember on the news not too long ago, there was a white cop who shot a black man, where the black man did have a gun, and the cop saw that he was reaching maybe for his pocket, but there was a good chance in the cop's eyes he was reaching for his gun. Here's, for anybody who ever gets pulled over, let me give you a sound advice. If you have a gun, whether it's legal or illegal, well, if it's illegal, then you're SOL, period. But if it's legal, make sure you tell the cop, hey, I have a gun. This is where it's at. I am not going to reach for my gun. I'm going to reach for my wallet, which is where happened to be where the gun is. Or let me step out of the vehicle, I will let you grab my wallet. I mean, anything you can do to save your butt from getting shot, that is on you. So yes, that was on the person who got shot. Is it a tragedy that he got shot? Yes, but that was on him. Back to the whole welfare and food stamps thing. That is real crap. That is something everybody needs to get on board and petition and to freaking get a hold of their local government and tell them they need to change this, because this is ridiculous. This should not be going on here. You should not be allowed to just live off the government and not even try to get any form of employment. You should be required to photocopy everything that you do. They should be more diligent about calling these workplaces to prove that you actually put an application in. Now, I was legitimately putting my applications in. Most of them were online. But I would make sure I would Google the company, find the address and phone number, and put it down, because I did not want to lose my food stamps. But then again, I could have just been like the little woman over here and go and, you know, sleep with 10 women, have 10 kids, or one woman and have 10 kids, and stay with that woman, and I would have been good. I would have been getting buku money and food stamps and welfare. But no, because I have more integrity than that, I refuse to do that. It is a running joke in between my wife and I that we go and have a buttload of kids and maybe then the government will help us. But then again, I don't want that many kids. I don't know who does want that many kids. I'm getting sick and tired of the government helping the people who don't deserve it. And yes, these people do not deserve it. Now, those who have a lot of kids and are still working, that cannot make ends meet, because having a lot of kids also requires having a lot of food, and food is expensive. So, good example, I know a woman who has 7 kids living at home. She makes 90 grand a year. Oh, well, that's good money. Yes, that is very good money. But she has house payment. You know, it doesn't cost, it costs a lot of money to be able to provide a house to fit all of these people in. I don't know about you, but have you ever lived in a 2-bedroom house with 7 kids? It doesn't work. So they need a house to fit all these kids. That house is expensive. She also needs to be able to have a vehicle to get to and from work. That costs money. Insurance costs money. Electricity costs money. Water costs money. Gas costs money. Now, I know a lot of you thinking, oh, well, maybe she shouldn't be wasting all of her money on stuff she doesn't need. Well, no, she needs everything I just listed, plus food. Now, here's where the issue lies. Food stamps doesn't take into account your car, or your insurance, or your phone. Now, I'm not saying a cell phone is a necessity, but in today's day and age, it pretty much is a necessity. How is a workplace going to be able to get a hold of you if you don't have some sort of phone? Now, the government is doing something where they give you a free phone if you're on food stamps. That's neither here nor there. It's a prepaid phone. I had it. It's stupid. You get like 30 free minutes a month. It's stupid. The only saving grace was it was a track phone, and I was able to purchase more minutes should I need it. At the time, I really did need all of this stuff. Well, now you need some kind of phone, whether it's a cell phone, a home phone, some kind of way for jobs to be able to contact you for interviews and stuff. So they need to change their laws on what they include as a bill. Gas, water, and electricity are the only things they count. And then also, I guess, rent and mortgage and stuff. But they don't take into account things that also matter. You need a way to get to work. Now, I get it, there's a bus system, but that costs a little bit of money. It's not expensive, but you need a way to get to and from work. So you do need a car in some sense. That's, you know, that's, again, I guess there's a bus, you could walk, whatever, but let's just say, for example, me, I have to go to work in another state because that was the only place that hired me at the time. And I still have that job. So now I have to go to Kansas to work. Well, that is my choice. But again, that was the only place that hired me at the time. And it's not that bad of a job. You know, like I said, I do make okay money right now. It's not glamorous, but it's able to make ends meet. So what about those? Yeah, there are bus systems that do go all the way out there, but it's easier that I have a car. But the government doesn't see it that way. All the government sees is how many kids you have, how much you make per hour, blah, 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 yada, 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 don't want to help you. So, if my wife and I really wanted help, we'd have to quit our job and live off welfare and food stamps. Where's the integrity in that? Where's the SJWs at that want to petition all the injustice in the world? Where are they at for this problem? This is a real problem, at least here in Missouri. I don't know about other states, but at least here in Missouri, That is a real problem. We don't have legitimate government help here unless you are extremely unemployed. Here's what's the real problem. Even together, my wife and I are still below the poverty line. Now, we're not extremely poverty. We do have a home. We do have a car. We do have our bills paid. We do have a phone. So let me check my privilege here for a second. We do have stuff to make ends meet, and we do have a roof over our head, and we do have vehicles. So I just checked my privilege. I'm a very privileged person. I am very blessed to have what I have. Do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm very blessed. I'm thankful for what I have. But the problem is, we still, with all that stuff, I mean, we would have to pay, you know, $200 to $300 a month to get actual food. Well, now we went to the, you know, store yesterday, spent our money. We ended up spending $140 on groceries because we were budgeting real tight. The problem is, we got a lot of ramen noodles, a lot of canned food, and a lot of microwavable burritos. It's not much, but that's basically what we're going to have to live off right now. We needed the food stamps. We really did. It did help a lot. Now, we can make it with us spending money on food with our own paychecks. It just made it easier that we were able to save that money for something that's also worthwhile. You know, just in case something happens. An emergency stash. But no, of course, they said we make too much. Which is ironic. We don't make enough to be considered above poverty, but yet we make too much to get food stamps. We also don't make enough to be able to qualify for the Affordable Care Act, but yet they want us to have insurance. There is a real problem in America. That is an American problem. That's not even a Missouri problem. You have to make below a certain amount collectively in order to qualify for the Affordable Care Act, in order to qualify for welfare, in order to qualify for Medicaid, food stamps. You have to make below a certain amount per year. We don't meet that requirement because we quote-unquote make too much. You know, combined, we make below $30,000 a year. That is ridiculous that they say we make too much. Combined, we make $30,000 a year or less. Where's the SJWs at? That's where they need to be petitioning. Not the little 12-year-old girl with box braids. Not people complaining about non-existent feminism crap going on. Not the non-existent rape culture we supposedly live in. Not this non-existent wage gap we supposedly have. Not these supposed women haters out there. Not, you know, any made-up statistic that SJWs and modern-day feminists want to make up. There's a real problem going on here, and that is a real problem. It may not be social injustice, but it's still injustice. But if you consider, you know, class, you know, middle class, upper class, lower class, poverty, if you consider that social, then yes, this is a social injustice. But it's not necessarily a social thing because it doesn't have to do with race. It doesn't have to do with man, woman. It has to do with how much you make, which I guess that can be social. But this is a real problem. This is what people need to be going after. This is what we need to strive to fix. Not this other malarkey that they try to say is going on. Let me look you straight in the eye and tell you, there is no rape culture, women. Nobody gets applauded for being raped. It is still a real problem in America, but it's not an applauded thing. It is not, hey, way to go, you just raped someone, high five. No, that does not happen. There is no wage gap. It is illegal to charge women less than men. There is no women hating, women beating, women anything going on, that's illegal. Let's get it through your head. That is illegal. There is no fake statistic really going on. Is there racial stuff going on? Yes. Is it a problem? Yes. Should we change it? Yes. That is a real problem. But don't make problems that aren't there. There was a little girl who was 12. A white girl who got box braids. She got tore up by the African American community because it was their culture. And she was white and not allowed to do it. Suck it up, people. Suck it up. If I want to listen to rap, I will listen to rap. I'm not black. If I want to listen to country, I will listen to country. God forbid, I will never listen to country. I'm not white. I'm Hispanic. So am I supposed to just listen to mariachi? No. I live in America where we accept other cultures. I refuse to conform to this ideology that I have to stick to my culture. That's where the problem is. That is where racial is getting, out of hand. Yes, it is a shame. There is still white on black crime. There is still black on white crime. There's still Mexican on black crime. There's still, white on Mexican crime. There is still racial stuff going on today. It is sad. But the real problems that really exist, like this, like the government assistance program, that's what we all need to come together, set our stupid differences aside, and work for the greater good. SJWs and feminists, shut up, put your stupidity aside, and let's get together as America and really change a problem.